Hello, everyone. It's great to see you again here at Chill English. I'm Quinn, and today we're going to talk about a topic that almost anyone learning English has experienced: listening comprehension. Have you ever turned on a conversation or a movie in English and only caught a few scattered words, while the whole passage just slipped by before you could grasp it? This doesn't happen to you alone. Almost every learner has felt that confusion. Listening without understanding, or only catching bits and pieces, can easily drain our motivation. But listening comprehension isn't an unbreakable wall. In fact, it's more like a door. Once you learn how to knock in the right rhythm, the door will gradually open, allowing you to step into the world of language more naturally. And today, we'll explore some secrets to really listening and truly understanding English, even without subtitles. Maybe you often watch English videos, movies, TV shows, or educational YouTube channels, and most of the time, you probably turn on subtitles to make sure you don't miss anything. Subtitles feel safe, like a lifeline. But that very sense of safety can turn into an invisible trap. When your eyes are glued to the lines of text, your ears play only a secondary role. You think you're practicing listening, but in reality, your brain is prioritizing reading over processing sound. Then, the moment you turn off the subtitles, a wave of frustration hits. The sounds rush past like running water, slipping away before you can catch them. Many learners get stuck in this loop for years, listening without ever truly understanding. That's because they've unintentionally turned subtitles into a crutch. And once you're used to leaning on it, walking on your own becomes difficult. So, what's the way out? It's not about cramming more vocabulary, nor about blasting English all day long so your ears can bathe in the language. The key lies in how you practice listening, training your brain little by little so the sounds become familiar and words and sentences gradually come into focus. At that point, English will no longer be a blur of confusing sounds, but clear, natural messages flowing into your mind with ease. The first step, simple in theory, but where many stumble, is choosing the right material to practice with. A lot of learners start with content that's far too complex. For example, some jump straight into a podcast discussing global economics, full of numbers, technical terms, and rapid speech. Others pick a science fiction movie where characters speak quickly, using fantasy concepts and plenty of slang. When you face this kind of material, the feeling of being overwhelmed is almost unavoidable. You can't keep up, you get discouraged, and quickly conclude, "I'm just not good at languages." But in truth, it's not about being bad or lacking talent. The real issue is that you've stepped onto a path that's simply too steep from the very beginning. If, instead, you start with a simple everyday conversation or a short storytelling video with a clear situation, you'll find it much easier to breathe. These small steps are the solid foundation that helps you move forward without quitting halfway. And here's the key point: listen for context. This means you don't need to understand every single word to follow the story. Images, actions, and the flow of the situation give you clues to guess the meaning. With those anchors, you won't feel lost. You'll always have something to hold on to in order to understand more fully. When you practice listening with materials that have clear context, you'll realize something. The brain doesn't learn individual words in isolation. It learns by connecting everything together. The sounds you hear merge with the images you see, combined with familiar real-life experiences, forming one continuous stream of meaning. This allows you to understand without the stress of translating word by word. For example, when watching a cartoon, you see a character walk out of the bathroom with a towel in hand, drying their hair. Even if you don't catch every line of dialogue, that image is enough for you to understand they just finished showering. Or when listening to a storytelling podcast about daily life, if the context is centered around breakfast, it's easy to guess the next part will be about eating, going to school, or heading to work. This power makes listening with context feel like learning to swim in shallow water. You have support, you know you won't sink, so your mind feels more relaxed and free to focus on rhythm and sound. Gradually, as you become more comfortable, you'll have the confidence to step into deeper waters without fear. That's why, when you first start practicing listening, choose simple, easy to follow, and context-rich materials, children's cartoons, illustrated short stories, or slow-paced podcasts about familiar topics. These easy choices will sharpen your ears day by day. And then, step by step, you'll be strong enough to face more difficult listening tasks without fear or frustration. Now, let's move on to a very important stage, the step directly related to how you listen again and again. Many learners have the habit of turning on an English clip, listening once, and then sighing, "I didn't understand anything." And just like that, they give up. But in reality, listening only once is never enough. Your brain needs more time to process the sounds. Your ears, like muscles, need repeated training to grow sharper. That's why I often use a simple but extremely effective rule, the 3-listen rule. It may sound ordinary, but if you stick to it, the results will surprise you. The core idea is very straightforward. You listen to the same English passage 3 times, not once, not twice, but exactly 3 times. And here's the most important part. Each time you listen has a completely different purpose. First, listen. Get familiar with the rhythm. Your goal in the first listen is not to understand every single word, but to absorb the natural rhythm of the language. Think of English at this point as a song you've never heard before. When the music plays, you can't sing along yet, but you can feel whether the tempo is fast or slow, whether the melody is cheerful or calm, when it swells and when it softens. English works the same way. Just let your ears notice whether the speaker's tone is excited or steady, where they pause, and which words they stress. This is the stage where you train your ears to gradually get used to the flow of the language, just as your body gets used to the heartbeat of a new piece of music. Second, listen. Identify the key pieces. Once your ears are familiar with the rhythm, you'll start to pick up the standout signals in the passage. These might be familiar actions like cooking, walking, or playing sports, everyday places like a park, supermarket, or beach, or common emotions like nervousness, tiredness, or happiness. You don't need to understand everything. What matters is recognizing the recurring pieces. Like in a puzzle, with just a few pieces, you can already imagine the bigger picture. With repeated listening, your brain will naturally connect those pieces, slowly turning a blurry image into one with clear outlines. Third, listen. Discover the finer details. Now it's time to go deeper, not just seeing the overall picture, but noticing the details that make the story feel real. It could be a specific number like 5 a.m., a clear frequency such as 3 times a week, or an exact time like Saturday afternoon. Sometimes, even a tiny detail brings the scene to life. Light rain began to fall, or a dog suddenly ran across the street. These are the colors of language, the touches that transform a conversation from distant sounds into a vivid, relatable experience, as if you were right there inside the scene, not just a passive listener. You can think of the 3 listens as 3 trips through a museum. The first time, you walk through quickly, noticing portraits, landscapes, or sculptures. The second time, you stop a bit longer, paying attention to dominant colors or unique styles. The third time, you look closely at every brushstroke, every small detail on a character's face. Thanks to this, your experience becomes richer, deeper, and far more personal. The important thing is not to fall into the trap of understanding 100%. Many learners lose motivation just because they miss one word or phrase. But in reality, even native speakers attending a professional meeting outside their field don't catch everything. They keep listening, using context and experience to guess the meaning. That is the real skill of listening, grasping the overall message, not dissecting every single word. To apply this rule, choose materials close to your interests. For example, if you like cooking, listen to a simple recipe video. The first time, you'll just notice it's about a recipe. The second time, you'll catch phrases like chop finely, add to the pan, or season well. By the third time, you'll notice the exact amount of seasoning or the cooking time. This way, you're learning English and learning a new dish. 2 benefits in one. Another example, if you're into sports, try listening to a football commentary. The first time, just get that they're talking about a match. The second time, you'll notice phrases like score a goal, goalkeeper, or the crowd is cheering. The third time, you'll pick up the score numbers or the excitement in the commentator's voice. You'll see that each listening round adds a new layer of experience, opening wider doors to the language. Remember, just 10 minutes a day, done consistently, is enough for you to feel the change. At first, it may feel difficult, as if your ears are sluggish. But little by little, you'll be surprised to realize, wow, I can actually catch more than before. And that very moment will give you the motivation to keep going on your listening journey. And most importantly, on this journey of training your listening skills, you don't have to struggle alone. Chill English is always here to accompany you, not only providing listening practice, but also showing you a gentle, step-by-step approach. I'm Quinn, your companion, ready to share small tips, engaging stories, and practical methods that make listening feel natural and less stressful. Whenever you feel tired or progress seems too slow, remember that you always have a place to return to, a place to regain inspiration and continue forward. Each time you listen again, each time you try applying a new rule, that's one small but steady step. And over time, these small steps connect into a big path, so that English no longer feels like a heavy challenge. but instead becomes a natural, lively part of your everyday life.